Hey everyone, I'm Supersonic7C, and welcome to Syntax Error. Today I'll be talking about the problems with popularity and how game designers can combat them. Most designers and developers would love to have their game become popular, but sometimes too much popularity can negatively affect games. This phenomenon can lead to people forming preconceived notions of the game without even playing it. Seeing this happen can be very disheartening for game developers and cause them to start wondering why this happened and looking for ways to fix it. There are very few reasons as to why someone would dislike a game without playing it, but the main reason boils down to oversaturation. You see, in the past decade, the internet has allowed more and more people to express their opinions to a larger audience. When a player really likes a game, they often want to express their opinion and get others to like the game as well. People praise it to their friends, at school or work, on social media websites, and create other forms of media focused on the game, like YouTube videos or reviews. Of course, this is a very good thing for developers, and this creates a large amount of publicity for the game. However, some people will become so tired of seeing all the content being generated about the game that they may get annoyed and end up disliking when someone merely mentions it. As a game becomes more popular and mainstream, there is generally a backlash simply because of its sudden prevalence. This knee-jerk response results in many potential players not even trying the game and forming their own conclusions simply because of its popularity. Let's look at a recent example with the indie game Undertale. When the game was first announced on June 24th, 2013, it gained very few fans outside of its Kickstarter backers. Close to its release date of September 15th, 2015, it blew up in popularity and reached its peak in January of 2016. Around this time, many people started to get tired of hearing about the game and even started disliking it. How did a little-known Kickstarter suddenly rise to fame and become beloved across the internet? The most common reason that a title takes off is because one or more well-known YouTubers or websites decided to feature it. Games like Minecraft, The Amazing Frog, Shovel Knight, and The Stanley Parable may have never reached their level of notoriety without the help of YouTubers and game journalism websites. This publicity helps AAA games as well, but it's very rare for them to suddenly increase in popularity because of this. On the other hand, indie games rarely become popular later in their life cycles. AAA games can blow up multiple times thanks to remakes, re-releases, and becoming cult classics. When a remake or re-release gets announced for a loved game, it reinvigorates its fans, but it also gives new life to those who dislike the original game. These people are already tired of hearing praise for a game they didn't like as much as everybody else, so this time around they become extra vocal about the game's flaws and claim how the fans are being blinded by nostalgia or simply being irrational. This has happened many times for the Legend of Zelda series. It first started with Ocarina of Time, which was widely considered the best Zelda game to most fans of the series. The game was so beloved that it even held the #1 spot on Nintendo Power's top Nintendo games of all time list for multiple years in a row. Since the beginning though, there was always a small percentage of Zelda fans that disagreed. When its remake, Ocarina of Time 3D, was announced, fans who disliked the game became much more vocal. The popular opinion of what was the best Zelda game then shifted to what was previously considered a cult classic, The Wind Waker. Once this was remade as The Wind Waker HD, the popular opinion shifted to Majora's Mask. Once this was remade as Majora's Mask 3D, the popular opinion shifted to Twilight Princess. Once that was also remade as Twilight Princess HD, the focus shifted back to Ocarina of Time. When games go from being popular to despised and then revered again, it is known as the reoccurring popularity cycle. Another example of a game stuck in this cycle is Sonic Adventure 2. When it first came out in 2001, it was held in high regard and held even higher once it was released as Sonic Adventure 2 Battle in 2002. Later, in the year 2012, it was re-released once again, which caused opinions on the game to flip, and most people now believe the game is awful. There are still many who enjoy Sonic Adventure 2, however, there has been a shift in popular opinion, and it shapes the way many people look at the game. It's possible that indie games will be caught up in the recurring popularity cycle if they're remade or re-released, such as The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, but it's much more likely to happen to a AAA game thanks to their fanbases usually being larger. In most cases, indie games only drastically increase in popularity around their release date. This rarely occurs with AAA games, but I've seen it happen before. The Dark Souls series often gets backlash because of how often it's talked about compared to other games. People are also already getting tired of the recently released Overwatch because of the copious amounts of fan art and praise for the game. Why are AAA games less likely to have their popularity backfire on them? One reason is because they start with a level of popularity thanks to their publisher's pre-existing fanbase. Another reason is because AAA games can afford their own advertising. Many people know how AAA games need very little help getting noticed. When it comes to indie games, people know that it's far more likely others may not discover the game without them publicly praising it. They're also aware that word of mouth won't be that impactful to a AAA game, but can determine whether or not an indie game is successful. In general, people are more inclined to help out indie games because many view them as the underdog and believe they deserve higher praise because of it. How can we decrease the chances of our game having its popularity backfire? Sadly, there's not much you can do to combat this issue using traditional game design. The only game that even slightly prevented it using this method was the Beginner's Guide, and it most likely wasn't intentional. The game focuses on a narrator who wants to make his friends' games popular so other people will like them as much as he did. I don't really think the game was trying to shed light on this issue, but it focuses on how humans have a desire to show others what they love in hopes of evoking the same feelings for the topic in them. In the end, it's revealed that the narrator was changing aspects of his friends' games in order to make them more mainstream. This causes his friend to dislike him and beg him not to spread the game around anymore. Because of this theme of twisted devotion, along with the inclusion of certain plot points, fans hesitated to bring the game to other people's attentions. It didn't change much, but this did make the game far less popular than the developer's previous game, The Stanley Parable. Other than using traditional game design, there are different methods to help prevent backfire. One way is by creating an official environment for fans to discuss the game. For example, an official website or forum. Many developers create official subreddits on Reddit and oversee the game's forums on Steam. Places like these will encourage fans to keep praise, lengthy conversations, and constructive criticism in an official area instead of all over the internet. Oversaturation will most likely still be an issue, and you'll still run the risk of your popularity backfiring, but at the very least, this will help a little. Another way to try and prevent this issue is by asking your fans to be careful when it comes to publicly advertising and praising the game. However, this can easily become problematic as well because some fans might take the request the wrong way. It could even make them not want to discuss, create fan content, or promote the game. Some may even misinterpret it as the developer being overly protective of their creation. Because of this, most game designers ignore the problem and view it as a necessary evil that's not worth the risk of accidentally preventing their game from becoming popular in the first place. The problems with popularity may not be big problems, many might even regard them as non-issues, but I believe they're still worth noting. This is because there is one surefire way to drastically decrease the effects of this problem. This is by simply learning how to react and spreading awareness about the issue itself. When a game designer sees their game suddenly getting unwarranted hatred, it's best not to obsess over falling out of the limelight. Instead, follow the examples of developers like Scott Cawthon, the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's, and Toby Fox, the creator of Undertale. Appreciate the fans you do have and hold on to the impact your game has already made on people instead of trying to force it to continue on far past its peak in popularity. As for the fans, or the people being annoyed by the fans, it's human nature to associate negative experiences with other, completely separate experiences. If someone is going through a rough patch in their life, they may view the games they've played during that time in a negative light simply because of their emotional state. This is what's happening for the people who get tired of seeing so much praise for the game on the internet. They get so annoyed by the fans constantly talking about the game that they start to cut out the middleman and get annoyed at the game instead. However, many experiences with games can create positive results and memories as well, which explains why people feel senses of nostalgia for games, even bad ones, from their childhood. The game Rayman 2 Revolution is one of my all-time favorite games. New players will immediately notice the game's lackluster controls, poor voice acting, and dated graphics, but for me, when I play Rayman 2, I'm instantly reminded of the first time I was introduced to the concept of video games. It takes me back to the days where I'd be miserable in school, but wade through it just for the chance to play more of the game. I know this all sounds extremely cheesy, but Rayman 2 is what originally sparked my interest in game design. Without it, I may have never went on to become a game designer and create the show. Because of this, it's near impossible for me to dislike the game, even if I now realize its flaws. Most players will look back on their childhood gaming experiences fondly, so they'll associate the games they played back then with the same positivity. Just because some fans may be annoying or even downright frustrating, that doesn't mean you have to give into it. If you're being annoyed by the constant coverage of a game, try to separate that experience from the developer and game itself. Don't let incessant fans stop you from checking out a game and giving it a fair chance. If it's not your cup of tea and you have no desire to try it, that's fine. Just don't funnel your negative feelings towards the game, its fans, or developers. As for fans of a game, it's fine to praise something or help it by spreading the word. Just be careful of how much you do it. Remember, the people who will be reading your social media posts or hearing your opinion have most likely heard others praise the game already. If someone doesn't seem interested or doesn't want to know more, don't pressure them. It's okay for them to not like the game or play it in a different way, no matter how good it may be or how much you care about it. Their opinion doesn't invalidate yours, and your opinion doesn't invalidate theirs, so don't worry about it. Instead, try to make sure they have a good experience playing the game, unpressured, with friends, or maybe by themselves, but always keep in mind that it is only a possibility they may come to like it. Think about what your friends like, what games they're into, and what things they're looking for in a game. Don't just immediately start selling them on the game. Ask them if they've heard of or played it already, and move on from there. When bringing the game up to friends, refrain from forcing it onto them and saying things like, "You have to play this game." Rather, tell them how you'd love to play the game with them or know what their opinion of it is. Instead of the experience being negative and shaming, make it a positive experience that you can share with someone else, respecting not only them, but the game as well. This type of community benefits both the fans and the game designers, which ensures that the popularity of a game doesn't become a problem. I've been Supersonic 7C, and I'll see you guys next time.